Great. So thank you for joining me today, Mark. I'm really, really looking forward to your interview, actually, because your job's quite cool, and you do some really amazing stuff, which I think is great, because what you seem to be doing at the moment is using something that you really love to help other people, and I think that's really important. So if you're kind of quite comfortable too, do you want to just let the guys know that are watching what you do right now?
Okay, so I have kind of two hats that I wear, basically. So I've actually worked in the zoo world for about 15 years now, and my main passion's always been animal welfare. So I'm now actually self-employed, but I run a business where we actually get corporate groups to come and do team building in zoos, and we actually get them as part of their team build to build things for the animals. So they get kind of a weird out of comfort zone experience using drills and saws, which is not normally part of their day job. And they actually get to build something that's going to go in with a monkey or a tiger, or sometimes goats and donkeys, which is actually just as cool a lot of the time. But at the end of the team build, we take the stuff to the enclosure, they get to see it going in, and they get a real feel-good factor knowing they've actually helped the animals out. The other part of my job is actually doing kind of capacity building things. So we do workshops, courses for people. Sorry, it's my daughter banging on the back door. Super professional.
No, that's okay. I know we've got my dog barking. Don't worry about it.
Fair enough. So the other thing that we do is we actually run courses and workshops for students who want to become keepers, and for people who are already keepers. And a lot of those workshops are in developing countries, where animal welfare isn't really something people think about. So we sort of talk to them about how they can actually make the lives of the animals that they work with better. And actually generally that tends to improve their lives as well, because they get a lot more job satisfaction out of it. So yeah, it's kind of a very mixed bag, but it keeps life interesting.
Yeah, and it's amazing. And I've seen on your LinkedIn the meerkat boxes, and I must admit I did watch it about 4 times thinking, that's so cool.
Yeah, no, building things for animals is a buzz that just never stops. It's amazing to see something that you've actually created being used in a way that you expect or a way you don't expect, and it really is such a rewarding thing. So we wanted to share that with other people.
Yeah, and these corporate days are quite popular. I did in my previous job, I did these kind of team building things. We did the Lake District, where you kind of had to climb a mountain and survive and stuff. And I'd much rather build boxes for meerkats, I have to say. But it's not it's not well known. It's not something that when you look at team building, people kind of look at the Lego and the mountain climbing and stuff. And what you're doing is, what I like with what you do is that there is an end product that is made use of. You know, when we did ours, we kind of climbed the mountain, we got hot chocolate, we had a few brandies later, and it was kind of over. What you're doing is using the two aspects, and the animals actually benefit from it as well, which I think is really amazing.
Yeah, absolutely.
You didn't kind of grow up at sort of 6 or 7 thinking, I now want to get, leaders and managers to build boxes for meerkats. Or if you did, you were forward thinking.
No, definitely not. I always wanted to work with animals, and that was always my dream, and I always kind of assumed I'd be a keeper, actually. But I did biology for GCSE, but I wasn't good enough to do it for A-level. So I kind of assumed that if I didn't have a biology A-level, then I actually wouldn't be able to work with animals. So that was just kind of the message that I was given at school. Yeah. So I actually gave up on that dream and thought, well, I'll go into psychology instead.
They're so similar.
Yeah, exactly. Human behaviour instead of animal behaviour. But yeah, I actually, during a sort of a strange twist of events, I missed out on the grades I needed to get to the university I wanted to. Only by 6 points, which was a bit frustrating, but it meant that I couldn't get on the course that I wanted to get on. So instead of going somewhere else, I decided I'd actually take a gap year, and that I would go and resit just 2 exams, just to bump those grades up. And then I then had 6 months of my gap year left, so I thought, well, I'll go and do some travelling. So I ended up going to Africa. And I managed to find my way into doing some stuff with animals, and that completely changed my course back onto what I wanted to do. So I actually took the psychology degree and turned it back into focusing on animal behaviour.
Wow, that's really good. And do you know what, there's going to be a lot of students that are in that early part the same as you, in that kind of have this idea of what they want to be when they grow up, and then when it comes to the grades, they don't fit the dream. And growing up, I wanted to be a nurse, got to my GCSEs and realised that actually I wasn't bright enough to be a nurse. And I know that's a wrong phrasing to use now, but at the time, that's kind of, teachers kept telling me I needed to think of other careers as well. What was I going to do if I didn't get the grades? And there was a lot of negative talk around not being able to achieve. And I think you probably come from the same sort of generation as me, in that you didn't have somebody sit with you when you didn't get your grades and say, okay, what else can you do? How else can we turn this around? What other avenues are there? It was, I didn't get the grades, I can't do that, I need to find a new career. And that's kind of where you had to sit as well. And then you had it again at university, and that's kind of horrible bad luck on your part, but it happens a lot to people, isn't it? They kind of aim for certain roles or careers or journeys, and then they're just a couple of points short, which means that they can't do it. And it seems to be so unfair, but there are other ways into what you want to do. But now we have more exposure to the internet, we can find ways into it. But certainly the kind of older generation didn't have that. And so the feedback and support that comes to the younger generation is missing, because we didn't live through it, we can't advise on how to do it. So there's a big gap, isn't there?
No, definitely. And I think that was it. It was partly kind of a luck thing that I just happened to find the right sort of things. And then when I actually got to Africa, I actually just picked up a leaflet and for a wildlife place, and I kind of thought, well, I'll go and visit for a couple of days, and I did, and I loved it. And I just I actually left, and then I rang them up and said, can I come back and volunteer? I've cancelled part of my trip, and I'll just come back and work for free, and if you're okay with that, can I do it? And they said yes. So I did 2 weeks volunteering for them. It was actually really nice because they gave me bed and board and stuff, which was, you don't get that anymore.
Yeah.
Now if you want to go and volunteer at a wildlife place, you have to pay £2,000 or something to do it. It's utterly insane, and you have to pay for your bed and board there and stuff. But I was just really lucky, and that really completely changed my whole aspect on what I wanted to do. So the smallest little thing, just taking that one opportunity and thinking I'll have a go, and actually I wouldn't be doing now what I am doing if I hadn't have made that decision, if I hadn't have found that leaflet and gone, I'm going to have a go at that.
Yeah, it's knowing an opportunity when you see it, isn't it? And rather than ignoring the signs, is kind of seeing it and thinking, okay, I'll give that a go and see. So what happened next for you then when you can kind of come back from Africa? But that was hard.
Yeah, it was. I nearly didn't come back. Actually had a phone call with my mum where I went, I think I might actually stay a bit longer, and she burst into tears and went, oh my God, you're never coming home, are you? And it was actually a good thing, because it kind of made me think, right, actually I need to be sensible about what I'm doing with my life, and I can't just keep staying out here and volunteering. So I came back. I started my course, and because I'd kind of changed the view on what I wanted to do, the course actually wasn't quite working out the way I wanted it to. So at the end of my first year, I was actually genuinely considering dropping out and reapplying and going somewhere else. But again, luckily, I just happened to mention to my coordinator at the time that this is sort of the feeling that I was having. And they said, well, can I just get you to have a chat with someone else in the department? And they introduced me to a primatologist, and her main focus was animal welfare. And so we had a long chat, and she said, well, what do you want to do? And I told her, and she actually then set me up to work with one of her PhD students over the summer. So I was actually a research assistant for a PhD project. And that was my first time doing research in a zoo setting. I spent 2 weeks basically collecting data at Edinburgh Zoo. It's the fittest I've ever been in my life, because if you've ever been to Edinburgh Zoo, it's literally on a hill like that.
Yeah,
one of the animals I was looking at was at the top of the hill, and one of them was at the bottom, and I had to go up and down every 15 minutes.
So you had Fitbits back then, eh?
No, they didn't. It would have racked up a lot if they had. But it was just, that was it. I was hooked. I loved watching animals. I loved, the sort of the collection of the data, and it was just really interesting to me, and that made me want to do it again. So I actually then planned my own research project for the following summer, and again working with my supervisor. She kind of mentored me through it, and basically it was because I was kind of prepared to put the time in and do a bit of volunteering, and I wasn't getting paid or anything. It was just something I really wanted to do. around sort of working in Pizza Hut at the time, which was always good fun. I started kind of building up a bit of a name, and I did a presentation on what I'd done at a conference, which was something that absolutely terrified me. But I was like, well, if I want to do more of this, then I need to put myself out there.
Yeah.
And because I did the presentation, the guy at the local safari park knew that I could present, and he said, when I finished university, he said to me, well, I need someone to fill in for 2 weeks while I wait for a new education officer to start. Can you come and do some presentations at the park? And that was it. That was my first sort of official job out of uni in the zoo world, and it all just kind of grew from there. Really, I was there for a year and a half.
Long 2 weeks.
Very long 2 weeks, yeah. But I actually,
it happens, isn't it? You start doing something just, it's only going to be temporary, or it's only going to be for a few weeks, and you find that you're passionate about it, or that you love it, and it steers you a completely different way, doesn't it?
Absolutely. If you'd have told me when I was at school that I'd be standing up doing presentations in front of 200 people, then I would have absolutely, there's no way.
Yeah.
But I really enjoy it, and it's something that I'm quite a quiet person. If you talk to me, I'm absolutely rubbish at small talk. But stand me in front of 50 people or whatever, and give me an animal to talk about, and I can talk for hours and hours. And it's just, I love doing it, and I love talking to people about it afterwards, and kind of finding out what they learned and what they enjoyed, and it's amazing fun.
It's what you're passionate about, isn't it? And I think that's the big learning point for the guys who are watching this, is that if you find a job that, and it is, it's a cliche, but if you find a job that you love, it's not like real work, is it?
No, it's not. I mean, well, yes, there's quite a good, there's a meme that goes around the sort of zookeeper forums a lot of, it's the whole, find a job you love doing and you'll never work a day of your life. And that end gets scrubbed out, and it's like, well, actually you'll work 24/7 for very little pay for the rest of your life. But, which, if you want to work with animals, nobody works for animals for the money. At the end of the day, that's the biggest. If anybody's interested in that career path, it's not going to make you rich, but it should make you happy. So, but yeah, it is. It's something that I just love to do.
Brilliant. I think that's amazing, and I love that you're using the two aspects of your business. So you're doing the kind of the supporting them and the conservation side of things, but also you're able to twist it a little bit and kind of use leadership as a way to kind of fund it, I suppose, in some ways, isn't it? It's like using two parts of your business. One is the money maker, which is your leadership building stuff, and then the other stuff is what you love doing, and is how you're going to leave your legacy, really, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, we actually start every team build by saying that essentially we started this to solve a problem that we have in the zoo world, which is the same problem everyone else has, is time and money are really limited, and we fix that problem by using your time and your money, so thanks for coming along. And it's sort of like, it's kind of a bit of a joke to start off with, but that is basically why we started it. We wanted to do more for animal welfare. We didn't have the resources that we needed, so we thought, well, how can we get around it? Corporates tend to have some money for training and stuff, so let's see if we can make this work. And we've been tweaking it and kind of perfecting it over the last 9 years or so, and I say we've been running it ourselves for about the last 4 years now, and it's growing nicely. And the because it's so different, and who gets to build stuff for a monkey, usually it's something that people really enjoy, and they spend a lot of time thinking about it and reflecting on it, and that only reaffirms, like you say, the communication and the leadership stuff that they've been learning. So it's a real nice marry of the two worlds.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's certainly when I did my leadership training, and I was sort of in my corporate days, when we kind of would get the dreaded email that says team building activity, and you think, oh, really? I don't like spending my work days with my colleagues sometimes. I don't want to do the weekend with them as well. And then you'd find it was in the Lake District and it was February, and I'd be thinking, really, July in Spain or something like that, but you learn a lot from these things. I know, even though sort of I was very kind of reserved about going, I didn't want to be away from my family and all of that kind of thing, but you do learn a lot from these kind of retreats that are on. And I think what you do is amazing, because like I said at the beginning, I think what was missing from the retreats that I did was there was nothing at the end of it. I think what you do is great, because those leaders and managers walk away feeling fulfilled because they've done something wonderful, but actually they are also leaving behind something they've created. And I'm quite sure they take their family back to that zoo at some point and say, mum built that or dad built that, and kind of want to show it off. So there is that constant turnaround, isn't there?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, we've got stuff that's still in enclosures. The oldest now is 8 years. It's still being used by the primates. Yeah, and it is. It's, we don't build stuff. A lot of people just assume they're going to make something. It's going to go in with the animals, and then it will get chucked in a skip at the end. But that wouldn't be benefiting the animal welfare side of things. And you know, we want to make a living, but ultimately, improving animal welfare is our primary goal. So that that wouldn't work that way. So we actually make life a bit difficult for ourselves, making it quite bespoke. But it's so much more rewarding that way. And like you say, the people know that they've actually left something behind that's actually doing good. So I think that makes a big difference to how every workshop we ever do, most of the people have no idea what it is they're doing, and they know they're doing team building, so they kind of walk in with a certain face, and then they see a table laden with drills and saws, and the face kind of goes from oh god to oh my god, you know, horror.
And stuff.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just when you actually then kind of, and then you tell people that they're going to be building, you know, a platform or something for you know, I don't know, an animal, and they're like, you can't be serious, we can't do that. And then at the end, when they're actually standing there taking photo with something that they've put all this effort into, they're like, wow, we actually achieved that. You know, I've never used a drill before in my life, but I've actually built something that's, you know, that sort of actually looks good and is gonna make a difference. So I think there's a lot of good that can be done with it.
Yeah, definitely. I think it's brilliant. And you know what I love about your career journey is that you are doing what you wanted to do when you were at school from a slightly different aspect, and you had those bumps and those barriers. You didn't maybe do it in the instant route that you wanted, kind of straight out of school, go straight to university and study animal welfare, but you kind of did it your own way. And there are going to be a lot of people kind of who are watching this who kind of think, okay, I might not have the grades, but I still really want to do that kind of job. And it's great that it took you slightly a different route, and you had to kind of have a stop off in Africa to get there, but you know, you kind of rooted back and come back to what you really wanted to do, and you are doing the job you always wanted to do. And I think we talk to students a lot about kind of what they want to do when they get older, and then we kind of tell them that there's lots of changes and they're going to have lots of different careers, but there are some people who have the same career from a slightly different, you know, kind of job role, or, you know, different aspect, but they are still doing what they wanted to do. And I think that's why your message is so important, because, you know, a lot of the people I interview are doing something completely different. You know, they want to be a teacher and now they're, you know, an engineer or something. And I think it's great because you're showing that actually, if you really, really want to do it and you work hard and you find other routes round, you can flip and come back to what you always wanted to do, which I think is really important for people to hear.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I always joke about the fact that I kind of found the back door into the animal world. It wasn't the straightforward path that everyone assumes, but I mean, it's a world that you have to be passionate about, and if you really want to get in there, you have to you know, work hard, but it doesn't have to be the standard route of, you know, you must get A grades and stuff like that. I mean, when I was at school, I was classed as dyslexic and dyspraxic, which is a nice combination to have. But, you know, I was never,
why not?
Yeah, just both sides. It's fine. I think the definitions of what those are now has changed a bit. But yeah, I mean, school was a real struggle for me. And I was just, you know, it wasn't really until I got to university and I really got to do something I was really passionate about that I actually started enjoying studying and stuff. But it, you know, it was just the persistence to get there that sort of made it all worthwhile, really. So
and I always say to people that, you know, school environment is very different to real life. You know, at school we are taught in a certain way, and you know, and I always say it's no disrespect to the teachers, and you know, there has to be set rules. But once you leave school and you go to college or you go to university, a lot of people that struggle academically find it so much easier at higher education, which sounds strange. You think that they'd struggle more with kind of university, but a lot of them, they blossom there because they're learning in a way that suits them more, and they learning one subject that they're really passionate about, that they love, and it makes a difference. I have a feeling that when we share your contact details, there are going to be a lot of people getting in touch wanting to know how they can kind of follow your footsteps and do what you're doing. So you may well be inundated. So you've learned your route a completely different way, and you've overcome a lot of hurdles. So for anybody who's watching who is just like you, who is struggling academically but wants to have that career that you're doing or something similar, and just, you know, wants to do something different with their life, what piece of advice would you give them?
I think it is. It's taking those opportunities. It's if somebody gives you an option, you know, even if it doesn't at the time seem quite what you think it might be, then it's just amazing the sort of the direction that things can come. And I've always, I've always, if you take those opportunities, they don't have to be quite so straightforward. So, you know, I went into doing a course on human psychology, but I took every opportunity to do comparative. So I was comparing it to the primate side, you know, the non-human primate side of things,
Yeah.
and just twisting it so that it captured my interest more and made me get into it a lot more. So you can kind of, there are opportunities out there, and just because they don't seem like exactly what you need at the time, you can turn that and make it something that works for you and is positive for you, and ultimately is going to get you to where you want to be.
Yeah, I think that's great advice, and I think it's advice that everybody can take, really, isn't it? Opportunities aren't always clear, and you've got to look for them. If you just sit around and wait for life to come to you, then you'll be sitting and waiting for a really long time. It's about getting out there and seeing what opportunities you can find. So I think that's really great advice. Thank you so much for your time. I know that you're kind of busy, and giving me your time is it's great for these guys, because I think everybody's going to learn something, and I think what you're doing is amazing. So thank you so much.
No worries. Thanks.